Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back in to another edition of Rock Hard Ball. Once again, I'm Carter. That's Weezy. You're listening to Rock Hard Ball, part of the Dogs Media Network here at Culture Ball Dogs. Thank you all for tuning in. I got another great show coming for you here tonight on this beautiful Monday night. It's hot here in Lincoln, but that's not going to stop us. It's warm in the studio, but we're going to get ready to rock and roll. And speaking of not so warm things, though, on the other side, in the cold things, let's get right into the big story of the night. The Stanley Cup Finals have wrapped up, and the Florida Panthers have won their first ever Stanley Cup, defeating the Edmonton Oilers by a final score of 2-1. They gave up a 3-0 lead, nearly, even back up 3-3, but went back home, got the job done. Weez, you're the hockey expert here. Give us your thoughts on the Stanley Cup. Florida gets it done.
Yeah, no, it was an awesome game. You watched it. Drama for sure too. God, it felt like the Oilers wouldn't get one in that last 6 minutes. I know you were watching, you thought the same thing. It sucked. I was rooting for the Oilers, but Canada still goes on their drought, and Florida finally gets their first Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I watched most of the game tonight. I was a little bit busy with getting things ready for the show, but kind of paid attention. And yeah, the last 6 minutes or so, it looks like the Oilers were going to maybe make a push there, especially those last couple minutes. It kind of felt like things all of a sudden maybe were starting to turn. I don't know. There's just kind of like a feeling.
They also kind of shot themselves in the foot. Like, I get it. You have to, you want your best three players on the ice. Like, they kept rocking with that McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman line. But it also felt like it almost shot them in the foot. Because with those 2 minutes left, they were gassed. And especially with a minute left, finally get Skinner out of there. Took them way too long. Couldn't get the puck in the zone. And it just felt like McDavid has nothing. Draisaitl looked like he could barely even skate anymore. And it's like with a minute left, there was no pressure to even really put one in the net. But congrats to Florida. And Conn Smythe, McDavid wins, which will spark some controversy given he's now the sixth guy to win it on a losing effort, but he deserved it. And I don't like people. I'm already arguing with people about it. He deserved it. He had probably the second best playoff run ever. So I think it's well deserved.
Yeah. And I confirmed it with you before we started the show because, again, as I've said, I'm not a big hockey guy. But it is for the full playoffs in hockey. So that changes it for sure.
Yeah. Obviously Bobrovsky definitely, if it was just like a Stanley Cup final trophy, definitely would have just gone to solely Bobrovsky. But again, it's an entire playoff thing. And McDavid played arguably one of the better playoff runs players ever gone on. So
yeah, pushed Gretzky a little bit in the total points record. Obviously didn't get there with a disappointing performance tonight. But he beat his assists record, right?
Yep.
So pretty big. Sam getting in right away in the comments, asking Lily Lang collab tonight. For those who don't know, Burnerverse is what they're calling it. Has had an absolute day with some girl that goes to Tennessee. So
speaking of Tennessee, we didn't even have it in our notes. We should probably hit on that. Congrats to them on winning the College World Series.
Yeah, so shout out Lily Lane and the boys getting the job done. They end up winning the College World Series in 3 games. They dropped the first one to A&M back on Saturday, final score 9-5. Then Sunday they got them back 4-1. And then tonight, Tennessee was leading the entire game. A&M was down 3, I think, going into the 9th, scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th, but just ended up not being quite enough. So, yeah, congrats to Tennessee. I think that was their first baseball championship ever, too.
First ever.
So, yeah, a couple first-time champions tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Not Lily Lang's first.
Cass says, Weezy, you're joining in on ESPN's Suckfest of McDavid. How do you feel about that?
I mean, yeah, he's the greatest player in the world. Has been for years now.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he doesn't have the accolades, but probably the best hockey player ever.
I mean, is it again, to kind of help him out here? Is it kind of like similar like the LeBron thing before he won his title?
I mean, yeah, McDavid's only. When was LeBron when he won his first title though?
Well, he still wasn't that old because he went in the league when he was 18. But let's see, 12, won in 03. He probably won when he was 27.
McDavid is 27. So if he would have won, it would have been almost direct parallel. But no, I mean, again, I don't see the point of it's a lot of it's team success, and those Oilers teams forever have been awful. Probably would have loved to see him get it done, but I hate discrediting players for not winning one, especially in a massive team sport like that. Sure, NBA is less. It's you got 18 skaters on the ice, cycling. You need a good team. That Florida team's a good team. So I'm never going to discredit McDavid for not having a cup yet.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see him come back because then we would have gotten to get into a whole other conversation tonight. Greatest choke jobs of all time would have been something fun to get into tonight. But
also talking about that, how demoralizing does it have to be down 3-0, bring it to a game 7 just to lose in that fashion?
Yeah, seriously, that's
got to be one of the probably more painful things in an entire sports player's career.
Yeah, and speaking of LeBron, Cass is year 21, just a kid from Akron. Shout out,
Chosen one.
our good and glorious king. He is our sunshine. Gotta always shout out LeBron every episode. But again, congrats to the Panthers for getting it done. I guess I didn't even put it up. We had an even little thing for them, but yeah. All right, that's I guess that. So didn't really get to make much use of that. Next item on the agenda that we were going to talk about a little bit. EA Sports Culture Bowl 25 has released some more news, or I guess they kind of released news about news that they're going to release.
Yeah.
Basically. So they released a schedule now of how they're going to come out with different news here within the next week or so as we get closer and closer to launch date. So starting tomorrow, they're going to release like the toughest places to play in the game. So I'm assuming there must be, is there like ratings for the stadiums? I guess I don't really know if they've really even spoken on that much yet, but there must be some kind of a factor that
would
like
be cool.
affects your game.
Like obviously, like they do in Madden too, like when it's hostile, like your receivers routes like start waggling around. It's like maybe there's like, depending on the stadium we're in, it's like a Jurassic feel.
Mhm.
Like if you're in like, Penn State, it's gonna be crazy. If you're in App State, it's a little, less than that, but I don't know.
Yeah, so that'll be kind of a fun thing to watch because, yeah, in Madden, it's basically just based on like how the game's going.
Yeah.
So it's like if you start winning, then then your opponents get messed up and lose that, and then they have like the whatever squiggly lines when you're trying to look at the play art and stuff like that. If you're starting to lose momentum, because I feel like with Culture Ball it's going to be different because it probably just won't be solely based on momentum. I would guess it would probably like with the stadium, like Madden, it always starts at even, or it's like just slightly starts on the home team. I mean, yes, with this, like for example, like Penn State, it'll probably start like just completely full on the home team.
Yeah,
and you'd have to get up at like 20 to like probably push it to your side.
Yeah,
so
and then also like I'm assuming like first play of the fourth quarter, and if it's like any bit of a close game, that'll maybe
third downs, stuff like that. Yeah, I think that stuff's really cool. Just more, I guess, details that add to a fun game. So we'll throw a couple in here. Cass says the Alira Center will be 99 overall. Probably not. I doubt that the UND is going to be in there, but we'll see. I don't think they've added FCS teams, but I'm sure eventually they will. And Eric Hansen getting in there as well. The Alira Center must drive this guy is crazy. Also, Weez, really quick back to hockey here. Missed this one earlier. Getting wind that you jinxed the Oilers on Friday night. Is this true? What'd you do to jinx them, Weez?
I was texting between Mick here who's commenting. I thought there was no chance the Oilers lose. I had some beverages in me. Look, you come back down 3-0. I would imagine the team that blew the 3-0 lead would be mentally shot. I was wrong. Jinx though? No, I definitely did not jinx them. That's bullshit.
No, I agree. I think we talked about it when we watched the game live. We were like, I think everybody that we watched it with said that there was no shot the Panthers ended up winning the series, but they did. So yeah. All right, back to Culture Ball. So another thing is there's going to on Wednesday, it would be so June 26th, they're going to release the Sights and Sounds deep dive. So I'm going to guess that's just like tradition type stuff. Like I know they already said Enter Sandman and Jump Around won't be in the game, but whatever else,
probably issues.
Yeah,
like We Are Penn State. They'll probably like release that. I don't know. Like, are they gonna like? Do they have like audio of like different stadiums?
I don't know, or maybe they'll drop some like clips of what walkouts are going to look like.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe like Nebraska, like the tunnel walk. Maybe that's going to be something that you get to like experience each game if you were playing with Nebraska, something like that. So that should be interesting. I mean, a lot of this is just it's going to be fresh info, so we'll actually get to find out like what this shit even means.
Yeah,
because right now we just don't really know. And then on Thursday, we're going to find out who the top offenses and defenses are in the game. So, spoiler alert: Iowa will not be a top offense, but they might be a top defense. So, just be ready for that one, so you're not shocked. But who do you think will be the top offense, top defense in the game?
Ooh,
so I kind of put you on the spot there, but
yeah,
curious to hear your thoughts.
I think top offense is probably down to 3 teams, maybe 4. I think immediately like Oregon, obviously with Gabriel coming in. Dan Lanning offense is always fun as hell. Ohio State's going to be up there. Georgia, I'm thinking, and then maybe Texas.
How much like variation do you think we see from like it just being purely based on like best teams, or like do you think there'll be like a couple? I can't really think of somebody off the top of my head, but will you maybe see a couple teams that like get into the top 10 who are going to have like a really really good offense that will have like a top 10 offense in the actual game, but their defense is so bad that like they're not going to be like a legit like team this year? Do you think
that my mind?
Because like in Madden, kind of just trying to compare the two, it's like I feel like they don't always accurately represent the teams
No, it's
because
not,
they
like,
because
even.
they have to get the team overall to like be where they think it should be. So it's not always so true. Like they put the Chiefs defense usually like way too high in some of the past. Chiefs defense has gotten better, but in some of the past man, their defense was way too high. Their offense probably should have been higher. Defense should have been lower, but like to get the right team overall, they had to do that. I don't know.
I'm thinking maybe like some fun like group of 5 teams. I'm like maybe like Tulane will have like an awesome offense, but I think it's gonna be a lot like Madden though too. Where I also don't think like there's gonna be like an offense with 99. Like I think like the top offense will probably be like a 94, 95 again, just like kind of level out the playing field. Because like Ohio State's a good example. On paper, that roster is absolutely stacked. Are they gonna have like a 99 offense, 98 defense?
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's bullshit. So
I'm trying to remember like what do you remember at all like what they used to max out the teams on like on the old games? I feel like they used to let them go pretty high, didn't they?
I think 99.
Really? Was that? I don't. I honestly just don't. I can't remember.
I
sure.
swear I feel like in NCAA 14, Alabama was always like a 98, 97, 99.
If anybody knows in the comments for sure, let us know if there was if they
But I
capped out
also
teams.
do remember. I feel like it was kind of drastic because I feel like I remember in NCAA 14.
Well, I remember that they had
Michigan
the meter.
was like
they had the meter thing.
The meter.
Mhm.
I feel like Michigan was always like a 92, 93 offense, and like it was the Brady Hoke days. The defense was awful, and they would rate it at like an 80. So that's like a 12, 13 point difference there, which is a much higher than you see in Madden.
Yeah, I think it's well. I mean, and then college football itself, like the real thing is there is way bigger skill gaps than the NFL. NFL, every single guy's a pro. College football, you have Ohio State who has whatever 10, 15 future NFL players on their team, and then you've got some group of 5 school who it's like maybe a guy or two will make
Like,
a practice squad.
Yeah, they'll make a practice squad.
Yeah,
it'll be a lineman who's mean and feisty.
Yeah, yeah, and everybody's gonna fall in love with him in the pre-draft process, just like always. But got a couple more comments here. Kobe's asked about the Fargo Dome once again. I don't think FCS teams will be in there right away, but hopefully they will. Eric says, I think the fan section will have attractiveness ratings that will distract your players somewhere between NDSU and Arizona State. Well, first of all, that's just not nice to NDSU because I'm assuming you're trying to go low and high end of the spectrum there. But would be an interesting little fact add to the game. I think that would make it a little bit exciting. But
it's like you going to Miami. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, is that Alex Earl in the stands? But
feel like an alert at the bottom. It's like your quarterback's distracted.
Yeah, your quarterback is horny. His play is being negatively affected. Eric also said, for Liberty, it might cut some scenes of the President's Suite. That would be sick. The president's at the Liberty games. And then Cass said, will the ghost of Mike Leach be a factor in the game?
Hopefully.
That would be huge.
Is a Sun Devil?
Huh?
What even is a Sun Devil? What weapon does it have?
But yeah, so top offenses, top defenses, and then finally, the last one that they said they're going to release their whatever deep dive on this week is going to be Friday. We're going to get the overall team power ranking. So then we will find out truly how high they'll let some teams go and who the top teams in the actual game will be. So that should be fun to find out as well, because again, like it's kind of similar to Madden. There's certain teams in like Madden who are rated higher than they ever perform in the regular season. The Cowboys that are just better on paper. So it'd be kind of interesting again to see if that kind of holds true a little bit in college football to a point too.
Lock it down now. Like we each take a guess on who we think top team is.
Sure.
Who do you got?
I think it will be Ohio State.
I do too.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it's going to be Ohio State or Georgia.
Yeah.
I think there's not really any other option because I think they're pretty universally seen as the top 2 teams in the country. But I do think Ohio State's going to get the edge. And we'll probably talk more about that later when we get into our rock hard takes, but not rock hard takes, our college football playoff predictions that we're doing on later. So the Ohio State and Georgia debate will come up there again. But that's going to be all for the college football 25 news right now. That's about all we have. And then once they come out with some of this stuff going into Thursday night's episode, I'll probably get into a little bit of what they released, talk about it a little bit as we keep looking forward to the game. Moving on to NBA news. Again, we're in the offseason, but as most people know, the NBA offseason is one of the busiest offseasons of the 4 major sports. So we've got some more news coming down. Scotty Barnes has signed a max extension with the Raptors. Let's see if I can grab the contract here. 5 years, $270 million. I don't think it's actually all guaranteed. It's like 220 something's guaranteed, but worth up to $270 million. What was he, the 4th overall pick in 2021? 20?
Was it 21?
I don't remember. But yeah, so he gets the big contract. He's performed pretty well for the Raptors.
It just reminds you how stupid NBA money is.
Yeah.
Like a guy like Scotty Barnes making.
He was rookie of the year, wasn't he?
I maybe. We'll have to. Can you fact check that? I don't.
Scotty Barnes wins 2021, 2022 Rookie of the Year. So yeah, he did win a couple years ago.
Don't get me wrong. Scotty Barnes is an unreal player, but like
drafted in 21.
270 million is just a ridiculous number. It's like, are they embezzling money in that league? Because where the hell?
Jonte is, and he was on the Raptors. That's that's probably how they afforded to pay for Scotty Barnes' contract. Is they had to put on this whole facade and ban Jonte from the league, but in reality, their entire front office was laying hard money on Jonte's unders. It's true. It's
bet responsibly.
Yeah, bet responsibly. But yeah, Scotty Barnes gets a big max extension. I'm sure we'll see more of those coming, as we do every year with those draft picks that are eligible for them. And I mean, he's the future of the Raptors, so I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. I don't know what their future holds with him as the guy. He's a good player, but I don't know. Will he get to a superstar level? We'll just kind of wait and see. Moving on to a team who is a little bit more in a compete now fashion, but hasn't really gotten quite over the hump. The Cavs are making a couple moves, looking to secure the future. So first of all, they have hired Kenny Atkinson as their head coach. He is, I think, probably the most well-respected and talked about assistant in the NBA, right? Yeah. He's been with the Warriors for years. I think he coaches their summer league team and stuff like that. So should be a really good hire. I think he's been talked about every coaching cycle for the last 3 or 4 years, I think. Yeah. And just has never taken a job. And I think he's the kind of guy that can kind of wait for the job that he wants. And obviously the Cavs are a very good job, really good young team.
Yeah, maybe not talked about enough, but again, definitely have the talent on that roster. Maybe just a few more beef ups up the roster. Again, the East is we saw this year. The East is not that good from top to bottom as compared to the West. So it's you add a few more pieces, that team can go deep for sure.
Yep. And then also, speaking of securing the future and keeping that roster together, they are nearing an extension now with Donovan Mitchell. There's not really anything concrete, but apparently there are some reports that they're very optimistic that a deal should be done here, I'm assuming within the next week or two.
I think that was a little bit more shocking because, again, I thought he was maybe going to be in some blockbuster to get that last team to maybe push into final contender range. But if they...
Yeah. Another piece of NBA news here. The Timberwolves are extending head coach Chris Finch. He led the team to the playoffs the past 3 years, and then including, of course, a run to the Western Conference Finals this year. T-Wolves are a fun team. Probably the right move to lock them down.
Yeah.
Not really, I guess, too much to analyze there, but we'll just throw it out there so you guys know. And then finally, last piece of NBA news that we'll kind of touch on here before we move on is the NBA draft. That's going to be going on this week. It's going to start on Wednesday and then it finishes up on Thursday. I mean, we've talked about it before. It's not a good class. There's not a whole lot to be excited about. There's been people talking about is this the worst draft class since I think the one I saw on Twitter I was throwing out was 2000, where it was number one overall was Kenyon Martin.
Yeah.
And then there was it was Mike Miller and Jamal Crawford. Those are probably the 3 best players from the entire class. And it's not really close. So,
I mean, it's obviously again, we look at it as a, awful class, but it also probably just hurts our own views on it, given a bunch of mock drafts, 4 of the top 5 or 6 guys are Europeans. It's we don't know who they are, how good they are. So it's we look at it now because it's awful because the college talent coming into the draft it's bad. It's not great. Again, but who knows how good these France guys are? I think the top 3 projected are all supposed to come from France. So again, they could be great, and we could just be under playing this class for sure.
Yeah, I mean, also NBA draft classes are one of the hardest things of all time to predict. Obviously, and then so much of it's just changed too by just a couple of top guys just being in the class. Obviously, you had the Zion, Ja Morant class. You had Lowe and Ant and James Wiseman at the time, who was thought of very highly. We had Wembanyama. It's
I remember in 2003 thinking LeBron was going to be a Hall of Player. I looked at my dad. I was this kid from Akron.
Just a kid from Akron. Really quick, back to the Donovan Mitchell situation. Cass says, are we sure that Donovan Mitchell won't sign an extension and then ask out of Cleveland?
Yeah, he probably will.
So a little sign and trade action.
Yeah.
Be an interesting piece to look at as well. But yeah, that's going to do it for NBA talk. Again, nothing super exciting yet, but it's news. So we'll cover it in a time where a lot of stuff's pretty slow. But moving on to NFL, we've got the Chiefs, who had been on a generational run this offseason. They have finally made a move here on one of the guys who have been out there making moves. They released D lineman Isaiah Buggs, who has been arrested multiple times this offseason in Alabama. So just throwing that out there. Honestly, I don't
I mean, they picked him up from the Lions like mid-season.
Yeah.
It's not like he's a great player.
No, I kind of throw it on there more just because like the Chiefs just this offseason have been hilarious with just like constantly getting arrested and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, Bugs picked up like 3 of them in like 2 weeks.
yeah,
Like first he was like fighting dogs, then he beat up his girlfriend or some woman, I don't know. And then I think more news came out about him. So
yeah. Next thing up, a little bit information that I'm particularly interested in. Ed Policy has been named the successor to Mark Murphy as the Packers president and CEO. That'll take effect next summer. This is happening because Murphy is going to turn 70, and the Packers have a rule within the organization that once their president and CEO turns 70, he is no longer allowed to run the team. Something that a lot of Americans have been calling for in the country as well. But so that's over. That just kind of want to throw out there. It's kind of notable because more than other teams, it's like the Packers obviously are whatever, like a publicly owned team. They don't have an owner. So the president and the CEO of the team is basically like the owner. He's the one that's like calling most of the shots. Obviously, they don't have quite as much power as an owner, but it's just worth noting. So I thought I'd throw that out there. He's been with the team since like, I don't know, I think it was like 07 or something. I don't know, maybe. But Murphy's been there a long time. He's overseen a Super Bowl win, stuff like that. So did a nice job in his role. But again, he has to retire now. We'll be moving on. Cass says, "Rip Mark." So yeah, shout out. Moving on, Brandon Ayuk. This is probably the biggest story in the NFL right now that a lot of people are talking about. He has been kind of in a public gripe with the 49ers.
Talking about like Instagram about it, right?
Yeah. He was and then he was on somebody's like live or something, wasn't he?
It was like Instagram live where he was on like FaceTime with somebody, and I think like he directly was like, "Oh, they don't want me back."
Yeah.
Which
so the news came out today was like that he was meeting with the 49ers. And so now it's like, do we have a potential like Brandon Ayuk trade on the way? And that could definitely like change the NFL to a point. I mean, he's not a like bona fide superstar, but he's a very high level receiver. Yeah. And he'd be a wide receiver one, like undisputed on a lot of teams. In the 49ers, he's not the undisputed because it's like him and Debo are kind of both right there and they kind of play different roles. But would be a really big trade piece for a lot of teams. I know like New England, like the Giants, a couple teams that have been thrown out there, Jacksonville. Teams who need like a good receiver.
I think Jacksonville would be
can make some
the
waves.
Most fun fit. Finally give T-Law another guy, given that Ridley's gone, him and Gabe Davis. I think that's the best spot for him. Like, I don't want to see him go to New England. I mean, he'll be there for a year or two, and then he's out of there too. So.
And then your career is just ruined too.
Yeah.
If you go to New England, you never know. Maybe the new regime with Gerard Mayo will be a little bit different. Maybe they won't be just completely, like barbaric medieval times with their whatever doings with the I'm just losing it right now with the offense. Looking for the offense. But yeah, Ayuk could be on the move. Could all stay with the Niners. We'll see. Just again, something to keep an eye on here as we move through the offseason. Getting closer and closer to football season. And it can't come soon enough because dog days of summer get tough here without football. But hopefully we'll get there soon. Get some news coming in. Training camps getting going here in a month or so. And that'll be fun. Last thing we'll do here before we go to a quick break, and then we'll come back to our college football playoff predictions as well as our rock hard takes tonight. Golf. Scotty Scheffler mentioned him a couple times on the show. We haven't talked a ton of golf, but we bring it up here and there. Continuing an absolute unreal run so far right now in golf. He won in the playoff versus Tom Kim in the Travelers Championship. They both shot 22 under. Scotty ends up winning the playoff hole by one. It's his sixth event or sixth win of the year. He's the first to do it since Tiger in 09, I believe it was. And we're not even through June yet.
Yeah, it's just a historic run for the ages. I mean, like, he didn't even look like it was like other guys are at that leaderboard. It's like, oh, well, Scotty's coming. Yeah. He's inevitable. So,
yeah. And then also, like, again, the dominant run has been going on now for a while. So people are starting to talk, like, how does it compare? And it brings you back down the Tiger hole, which is crazy. Oh, actually, before I get into that, really quick shout out. Cam Young shot the 13th ever 59.
Say, yeah. I was actually just going to bring him up too, because then I started watching Sunday morning because they tee off like relatively early for like a Sunday event. Mm-hmm. It was like 10:30, and I'm watching with my roommate and then he opens up Sunday with four straight birdies. We look at each other like, is this fucker going to do this again? He cooled off and didn't, but still, like, the greatest probably like 24 holes I've ever watched.
Yeah. I think Cass, my brother, actually tweeted about it. I think wasn't he 18 under like the last like 24 holes he'd played or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Something nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he ended up like he like parred out the rest of the front nine, birdied the ninth hole, and then the back nine he just kind of fell apart and fell just way behind the leaders. I think he ended up finishing like 5 or 6 like back of the leaders, which was kind of crazy. But
I think he was 17.
it's
Which
5.
is 5, yeah. It's 22. Yeah.
But yeah, but still shout out 13th ever 59 to be recorded in a tour event, I think. So yeah, really impressive performance there on Saturday from Cam Young. But anyways, what I was getting to with Scheffler is my favorite thing is when guys go like on runs like this is like then we start bringing up the Tiger talk and like, you know, how does he compare? How does it look? It's just so funny, like look up the stats because it's like, okay, like I was curious how long has Scotty been number one now? He's been 92 total weeks because he had a run like back in like 22, I think, something like that, where he had a nice little run of like 30-ish weeks or something like that. And he's currently at 58 consecutive. Tiger's total weeks at number one is 683. So Scotty is currently nearly 600 back from that. And then Tiger also had a streak of 281 consecutive weeks at number one. And that was also, so what happened? He had 264 and then he lost the number one ranking for like, I think it was like 8 or 9 months. Then he got 281 consecutively. So if he doesn't have that little gap, damn near like whatever, however many years that is, like what, 6, 7 years, something like that, he would have been number one for that entire time.
I mean, yeah.
No, it's more than that, isn't it?
No, way more.
Yeah, it'd have been like damn near 10 years.
Yeah.
Because they had 281 alone over 5 years.
Yeah, would have been a whole decade of being the number one golfer in the world.
Yeah, that is just
It's a crazy stretch.
It's ridiculous.
And my other favorite thing, speaking of that, is like I love caddy talk on Twitter too. Like not only like they like looking at like how much money, like they don't even give a shit how much Scotty makes. It's like how much did his caddy make this year? Because it's like, yeah, this guy's gonna roll in millions this year for carrying a golf bag.
Yeah, I think I mean, I don't know where we're at after this tournament.
I think he's at 27 million.
Before
Scotty is.
Yeah, so before this one though, I think they said his caddy was, if he was like a golfer, he would have been the third highest earner on the tour this year. That's fucking nuts.
And the craziest thing is there's still like so many tournaments out there with huge purses too. Like the FedEx Championship, you know, the Open coming up soon. Like if he wins those, his caddy's could he finish with like the second most money?
I don't know. It is super crazy. Well, probably because I think I don't know who would be second right now.
Maybe Xander.
Because I think he was already ahead of Rory, and Rory's taking some time off anyway, so he'll obviously stay ahead of him because he's not playing till the Open, right? Wasn't that some news account? He's like not playing till the Open after his depressing loss. But yeah, Scotty has been on a generational tear, but it's still just super crazy to think that's not even close to Tiger. Also, like I hate the people like really from both camps that try to say like it's not the same competition, because you can poke holes at both guys' games. Like, yes, the game overall is probably better today. Like technology gets better. We talked about in basketball, like athletes gets better, technology gets better. More people started playing golf because Tiger. So it's like there's just better athletes in the game. But like, at the same time, some of the better players in the world are also on the Live Tour right now. So you can make arguments both ways for guys for both of them having lesser competition. But I mean, even being in the same breath as Tiger for some of these accomplishments for Scotty is just nuts to begin with. But still, it's ridiculous that he's still so far off from like the overall, goal.
How old's Scotty? He's like 28.
I mean, yeah, I always thought he was older because like he just kind of looks old.
Wait, so is he younger than 28? He looks like
he's 28.
35. Okay, yeah, he's 28.
But yeah, I've always thought he looked like 35, like 40. But I mean, yeah, he's
like we have to look up like when that like stretch of 261 weeks was, like what age that was.
I think it was early mid 2000s ish. I think the 264 week stretch started in like 99, I think.
So how old would he?
So around like 04, and then I think the next one was like 04 to 09 or something like that.
Okay.
So Tiger's 48 right now, so 15 years ago. So at the end of the run, he was probably 33.
Okay.
So this would probably have been about when he would have started the really long run of the 281 week streak. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff. But that being said, before we get into our college football playoff predictions and today's edition of Rock Hard Takes,
we got to bring it just because a comment from Cass too. The video of the climate processors was unbelievable. I've never seen mayhem on an 18th green like that, and it was funny. It was truly funny. Obviously, Batia thought he was scared for his life, which sure, but seeing the smoke bombs go off, the security guards just bringing people down on the green. One of the craziest things I've ever watched in golf, probably.
This is golf. You people are animals. A little Shooter McGavin action. Yeah. During an Happy Gilmore for a second. But yes, thanks for throwing that out there. I didn't even see that. But that being said, we are going to hit Hops commercial here really quick. Once again, you're listening to Rock Hard Ball, part of the Dogs Media Network here at Culture Ball Dogs, and we will be right back.
On the College Football Dogs website, you'll find a main page that features some of our biggest and newest stories. Our conference pages for content related to your favorite team's conference. Our team store, where we have products that are available all year long, as well as gear available for a limited time only. Our podcast page, where you can see when one of the 12 plus College Football Dogs podcasts is streaming live on social media. Our subscription page, where you can join our Discord. If you're interested in becoming a contributor at College Football Dogs, email us at info@collegefootballdogs.com. If you enjoy any College Football Dogs content, we really do appreciate any donations you can make by visiting the donate page on our website or scanning the QR code here.
College Football Dogs, for the fans.
Alrighty, and we are back. Once again, Rock Hard Ball, part of the Dogs Media Network here at College Football Dogs. Make sure you go check out the website as well, collegefootballdogs.com. Lots of great articles and stuff going up on there. We also have the Dogs TV network that's going to be coming at some point this summer, I think.
I think in July, I hear.
Yeah, hopefully. So they're working on that. So that'll be really exciting too. Then I think our shows will be live streamed on the website. So that'll be really cool. So if you haven't already, go follow at CFB Dogs with a DAWGS. That's how you spell it on Twitter. So you can keep up with the stuff that's going on there as well. But yeah, so again, shout out to those guys for bringing us on. It's been a fun time and looking to keep it rolling here as we go forward. But now we're going to get into our college football playoff predictions here. So we just each went through, ranked who we kind of thought we're going to finish, 1 through 12 as we go into the college football playoff. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about what we actually think happens once we get there. But I mean, obviously, we're just ranking them in the preseason. So that's kind of obviously how we think it's probably going to shake out anyways. But without further ado, we'll put them up, talk about them a little bit, why we think they're going to get in. And yeah, we'll start from the bottom up. So here's our 9 through 12 for each of us. For those who don't know or don't remember, the college football playoff has changed their playoff, like how it works. Obviously, we've gone to 12 teams. I think everybody knows that. People might not know is exactly how the seeding is going to have to work out. So basically what's going to happen is the top 4 conference winners will get the automatic 1 through 4 seeds based on how they're ranked. Even if, one of them's ranked, 7th in the country, but they're the 4th highest rated conference champion, they'll get the 4 seed, they'll get the buys, whatever. And then from there, it's the 5th highest ranked conference champion will also get an auto bid, but they can be ranked wherever. So basically, I mean, the general thought process there, and as you can see by our rankings, is that that's probably just going to be whoever the highest ranked group of 5 team is. So it's probably going to end up being, they're really legitimately going to be ranked maybe 15 to 25, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But they'll get the 12 seed, being the 5th highest ranked champ. One thing that we didn't really think about when we were making this, but we talked about it a little bit just pre-show right at the last minute. We don't know exactly how the committee plans to handle the Pac-2 now, I guess. Because I don't know if they really made an official statement on how they're going to handle them, like as their conference status. Because I don't think they've been officially disbanded as a conference yet. Technically, those Washington State and Oregon State, I think, are still part of that conference. So if one of them ends up being good and is one of the highest, quote unquote ranked conference champions, I don't know if they get one of the auto bids or if they're going to have to be a top 12 team. I don't know exactly how they're handling them.
I have a feeling it's probably going to be top 12.
Yeah, I assume they're probably going to treat them like a Notre Dame. Like they're going to have to be just like an independent, get enough wins, be impressive enough to get in as a top 12 team. But I mean, we don't think that either of them are going to be that good anyways. So we probably won't have to worry about that situation, but you never know. So here's our 9 through 12. We'll kind of just go through one by one and go up the list. So number 12, I got Boise State. I think they consistently are one of the better teams in the group of 5. And this year, they got good quarterback play. They've got a good roster there. They've got a good coach. So, and they play in the Mountain West too, which is one of the more respected group of 5 conferences, which gives them more chance to get solid wins and build a little bit of a resume. So I think that they will get in there as the 12.
Yeah, I was either in between Tulane, Boise State. I just like Tulane a little bit more. I like their offense a little bit more. But again, it was back and forth who I thought. I could easily see Boise State getting in as that group of 5 team.
Yeah, I also considered UTSA. Again, another team was really good last year. Was a fun team. But again, with the group of 5 teams, it's kind of hard to replicate like really good seasons back to back, I feel like.
Yep.
So that's kind of the biggest reason I kind of slided down a little bit. But yeah, that's 12. Now we get into fun teams, the teams who should be legitimate contenders. So number 11, I got Kansas State, actually. I think that Chris Kleiman's built a really good program there. And I think that their schedule lines up for them to be very, very good. They're in the Big 12, obviously, and Utah now has moved over to the Big 12, which will, I'm sure, get to them eventually here in these predictions. But they don't have to play Utah, and that's huge. They've got a couple games on their schedule that might be difficult, but I think there's a very, very realistic shot that they could go into the Big 12 championship game with like 11 wins. So, I mean, if they do that in a Power 5 conference, even if it's not one of the top tier ones, I think they got a pretty chance to get the playoff.
Yeah, I have Penn State. We've talked about it a bunch before, obviously, last episode with our Big Ten preview. I think they're finally going to get into the playoff, but again, I don't think they're a top 3 team in that conference, but I think their record would be good enough to get them into the playoff nonetheless. But again, they're going to be I have them as a lower seed, going to have to go play an away game.
Yeah, I got Penn State at 10 here. So you kind of just hit the nail on the head there. And then also we talked about it a little bit when we did our Big Ten predictions. Sam actually commented it. I don't trust Drew Aller either. I don't think that he's quite good enough to elevate them super high. But again, they play in the Big Ten. They're going to get respect for that, and their schedule is pretty light. If they just lose those couple games that they have against some of those top dogs who are going to be very highly rated in this, it's not going to affect their resume too much. So, yeah, I agree. I think they get into the playoff.
Okay. Yeah, I have Bama 10. I think they're going to be obviously one of the more interesting teams. How does Kalen DeBoer do over there? They lost a lot on defense. It's known. They did get some good grabs like Keon Sabb from Michigan, but I think maybe a little bit of a year one struggle. But again, year one struggle, they're still way too talented to not make the playoffs. So again, I have them as 10.
Yeah. Again, on target there. Kalen DeBoer, very good coach. I got him at 9. And yeah, Alabama's just always going to have so much talent, so much NFL talent on that roster. Their line's always going to be good. They're going to dominate in the trenches. They've got athletes all over the place. Jalen Milroe obviously is kind of I wouldn't necessarily say question mark. Obviously, he's proven to be a good quarterback, but we don't know if he ends up being like a Heisman level quarterback, then Alabama's a title contender.
Yeah.
If he's just, a good quarterback, just like an above average quarterback who can make, fun plays here and there, then yeah, Alabama probably still makes the playoff, but they're going to be a little bit on the lower end. So that's where I have them slotted there at 9.
Yeah, I have Notre Dame at 9. I don't think Notre Dame's necessarily the most talented team, but in terms of like these last few years, they've actually like credit to them for playing really tough schedules. I don't think they have a very tough schedule this year. So I think Marcus Freeman finds a way to win enough games to get them in. And again, I also am just curious to see again, like it's expanded, so it should be easier for them. But like, again, how does the committee treat them now? Like with the expansion, like, do they still have to, damn near go flawless again? Or is it going to be, they can drop a game or two?
Yeah. And so that's exactly why I'll just, say it now before we move on. I don't have Notre Dame on here. They're not going to be 8 or higher. If I did have them on there, that obviously would have been here for me. I just didn't put them in because even though it is expanded, I also feel like with a lot of these teams merging conferences that they're just going to have even better resumes and stuff, things like that. So yeah, I think Notre Dame will still have to be, just damn near perfect. And even then it's like, I would still probably take a couple of these, like a 2-loss Penn State, I think probably still has a decent chance to get in over like a 1-loss Notre Dame.
I still think Notre Dame's schedule is so easy though, where it's like, again, obviously they go to USC at the end of the year. I don't think USC is going to be very good this year. It's like, so the marquee matchup they have all year is Florida State at home.
Which is also tough though, because then if they have that one, if USC ends up going whatever 7-5, 8-4, they're not going to have like any wins on their resume either. Which is,
but does the committee drop off at 12, like a 11-1 or 12-0 Notre Dame team?
No, if they go undefeated, they'll definitely get in. Yeah. And even 11-1, I think they still have a chance. It's just it's hard to slot them in though. Still with some of the other teams, I think that even with 2 losses would probably have a better resume, just because. I mean, I think the committee's proven in the past that a lot of times they value good wins over like undefeated against weaker schedules. Yeah. So I don't know. I still wouldn't be shocked at all if Notre Dame gets in. And I think they will be good, but I don't know, just kind of thinking of it from a committee's perspective, I could see where they wouldn't. Before we get to the next slide here, let's get a couple comments that have been popping in here as we've gone through these first few teams. Cass says winner of the best of 11 series between Wazoo and the Beavers gets a bye. I think that's a fantastic idea.
Fun idea.
Maybe just give them a bye straight to the national championship game. You make everybody else just play a tournament of champions to get to go play the real champion there in the North, the whatever, either Beavers or the Wazoo. So that'd be fun. And then Eric agrees with Cass. Kobe, I believe this is a Chris Kleiman comment because he was the old head coach at NDSU. You're right. Kansas State is building a good program, just like NDSU. So shout out. And Jackson Breitbarth says, W take. Not really sure what take he's talking about, but one of us got a shout out there. So we're doing well so far. Let's get in now to some of the teams that will probably have more of a realistic chance to win the actual national title. Into our 5 through 8 seeds. We did not plan this at all to have the exact same takes. So I had Weezy send me his predictions so I could make the graphic before the show. I had mine done already, and somehow we still ended up with the exact same teams. So we'll run through them still, but obviously we'll kind of just go through it together. So first up is going to be Michigan. Weez, I'll let you kind of take the lead here as you are the Michigan man, and tell us what you think about your Wolverines this season.
I wanted to put them higher, but like thinking with a level head and like for the show, they will probably drop a game that I don't think they do. But again, same exact thing with other teams like Penn State. Way too much talent on this roster to not make the expanded playoff, I think. I mean, I think things would have to go terribly wrong for them not to make it. So I like him here at 8, but I would love to see them at obviously within like that top 4.
Yeah. When we did our Big Ten predictions, I think I had Michigan at 10-2. But obviously there's still a very realistic chance that this team wins 11 games and could really be one of the more elite teams in the country. Obviously, they're the defending national champions for a reason. Yes, they lost Harbaugh. Yes, they lost McCarthy. Yes, they lost a lot of talent overall. But that's been a program that's been building for years, and Sharon Moore looks like a capable coach. So I think they can keep it rolling. I think they make the playoff like almost guaranteed. I think it's almost guaranteed that Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, and Ohio State, like not guaranteed, but it's very high chance that all 4 of those teams make the playoffs.
I'm thinking that too, because we obviously both have 4 Big Ten teams. But I really don't know. Like, I truly could see them saying, like, oh, I don't want 4 Big Ten representatives in this. So, like, maybe, like, they want to just really limit it to 3. But I have no clue.
Yeah. Next up, we've got number 7 is Ole Miss. One of our episodes a while ago, I think we were doing Rock Hard Takes as our best bets this season. I had Jackson Dart as one of mine as a long shot Heisman contender. So if he is, ends up being like a Heisman level player, then I think that he could have a really good chance to propel Ole Miss into the playoff. And they got the roster there. I think Lane Kiffin's a good coach, so they should have a very good opportunity as well to make a push there. And of course, they're in the SEC, so they're going to get bonus points for that.
Yeah, I love Lane Kiffin and I love Jackson Dart. That's pretty much all that needs to be said there. Like we talked about it, we think Jackson Dart has a really good chance to win the Heisman this year, or at least maybe a dark horse. So I like Ole Miss here at 7. I think this would probably be the highest they would go, though.
Yeah, I agree. Even though that, again, as you just said, that Jack Start's really good, their roster still probably, although it's good, doesn't quite compete with. Even I think 6 to 7 here, there's a bit of a drop off. I think the top 6 this year are a margin better than 7 down. So this is where we get into, I mean, we kind of said it already when we got to this slide, but I think like Oregon up as we go forward here are like the true title contenders. I think there's probably like 4, maybe 5, like very real title contenders this year. And I think this is where we start getting into them. So number 6, Oregon. I mean, obviously we talked about it a little bit already. Dan Lanning's a really good coach. And they've always got a good offense. They got Dylan Gabriel in there now, who's going to elevate them as well. And I think we talked about it in the Big Ten predictions, kind of keep going back to that, but they've played kind of a Big Ten style of football for a long time, even in the Pac-12. And I think that's going to translate really well. I think they're going to win 11 games. I think they're going to be a high seed in the playoff, and I think they got a chance to make a run.
Yeah, I think your exact points are, true. I love Dylan Gabriel. I love Dan Lanning. And again, I think looking at it now, like there's a very good chance they have the best offense in all of college football. And again, I would agree with you that this is probably where like they would label them like true national title contenders, where 6 and above like have a legitimate shot, and the teams below, like it would probably take a little bit of like a miracle run. But then going back at it, because obviously 5's going to round it out, but like how much is also though, like if you get a lower seed here, like going into like an away stadium and for a playoff game in December, it's like how much is that going to impact things?
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree, because that's a whole new variable in the entire playoffs, is that some of these teams are going to play home games, and it's like, a game changer in college football.
The way I have it, obviously it's different. But like with my current lineup, like like Notre Dame would have to go to Ann Arbor in December to go play a playoff game. It's like that's going to be one of the tougher places to play.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious to see how that plays out.
Definitely. Moving on here, number 5, Texas. I think that Texas is probably the 3rd best team in the country, But obviously, with the new rules, they can't be a top 4 seed. So that's kind of unfortunate for them. But I mean, they'll get to play a home game, stuff like that. And then I think it goes to neutral sites once the top 4 start playing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they'll get to play at a neutral site, assuming that they win that first game. If it shakes out like this and they don't, end up winning the SEC. But I think they're super, super good. I think Quinn Ewers is arguably the best player in college football. He, might have an opportunity to go number 1 in the draft next year. They've got players all over the place. They've got some playoff experience now. I think Sarkisian's a good coach. He turned on the Alabama job to stay there. So I think that Texas is going to have a very, very realistic shot, just as they did last year to win the national title.
Yeah, we can probably just go to the next slide because I'm just repeating what you're saying.
Yeah,
exact same.
Yeah, unfortunately, just no differences here. And then once again, we're going to go pretty similar for the most part here on the last one, but we're differing there at the top.
Probably nationwide, like people would agree with this.
Yeah. So as we get into here, a couple of my brother's comments here, they're both going to be disappointed. Cass, no, Wisconsin is not in the top 4, unfortunately. Again, if you want to go check out our Big Ten predictions, if you missed those, but I know you didn't. Wisconsin's got a really tough schedule. They're not going to quite make the top 4 of the nation. But Kobe, we did not put Nebraska in the top 4. I would love to see Nebraska be a national title contender, but probably not quite yet. And then finally here, before we get into it, last comment, before we start listing these off, Jason, we already talked about Lily Lane earlier, so you're a little late to the gun there. So we already gave our scoop. Go check out Burnerverse if you need more information. All right, anyways, let's get into the top 4. These are who we think are going to be the best 4 conference champions in the country, and who will get the initial buys, things like that. So starting things off, we got the Utah Utes, who have moved over now to the Big 12. I kind of mentioned them a little bit with Kansas State earlier. They both have pretty cakewalk schedules in the Big 12. I don't think they're really going to get a test until they play each other in the conference championship game, to be completely honest. So,
no, pretty much. And then I also banked this solely on Cam Rising's health. Obviously,
yes,
got banged up all last year, but he's back. And if he's healthy, like he was one of the better quarterbacks in the country 2 years ago. So, healthy Cam Rising in that schedule, I think it sets him up perfectly for that 4 spot.
Number 3, Florida State. They're back with a vengeance. They got left out last year. I think they're pretty clearly the best team in the ACC. Clemson might compete, but I mean, Dabo is just still living in the 1980s.
I was going to put Clemson up there, but you said, I mean, you just hit up the transfer portal every once in a while.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to read a very long comment there, but let's get back to it here. Yeah, I think Florida State's roster is still good. And again, a chip on your shoulder can go a long way to a point. I mean, obviously, it's not going to. The chip alone is not going to win a national championship, but playing for that a little bit, I think matters. And yeah, I think they're going to be back, and they're going to be a very, very good team again. Number 2 for me is going to be Georgia. Again, this is where we differ, and a lot of the country, I think, does as well. I got Georgia number 2. I think they're a very good team. I think that, I guess we'll kind of just go into both of them at once here. They're the 2 best rosters in the country. I don't really think it's a question. Where I think it gets a little bit different here than it used to be is that, for one, I think that the Big Ten arguably might be better than the SEC this year, especially at the top. So Ohio State, I think, might have an opportunity to get some really, really big wins. The only difference will be, I think if they both go undefeated, I think Ohio State's the number 1 seed. But if Ohio State loses the game, which they could, because their schedule is very tough, that's why they would drop to 2.
I think the Big Ten is just too competitive. I think going 12-0 in that conference this year is just going to be way too difficult. And then also, it also came down to me was who do I trust more to win games at the end of the year? Do I trust Kirby Smart or Ryan Day? And
yeah.
Right now, I trust Kirby Smart.
It's a good point. I also kind of thought about, too, it's kind of backwards from how I usually think about football. But the past few years with Ohio State and Georgia, we've seen Georgia have, obviously both of them have had elite rosters over the past few years, but Georgia's has been just kind of like a little bit of a step above. And like their roster has been just so good that Stetson Bennett could take them to 2 national titles. Now I think it doesn't completely flip, but it's like a little bit different. Whereas now I think Georgia has the better quarterback, but I think Ohio State has that just slight upper hand in terms of just pure elite talent all over the field. And so again, that's kind of why I like their chances, because it seems to have been a winning formula over the past few years. So
yes, I'm also like curious, like how does Ohio State's quarterback room look?
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
Will Howard, like how will he come in, play? It's a lot of question marks. I would say mainly with Ohio State, just given like Georgia, we kind of know what to expect this year. So Ohio State's like, we don't. Like 3 straight years of, losing the game. And now you bring in just an extreme amount of talent into the roster. Do they finally get over the edge or no?
Yeah. And then also with Ohio State and Georgia, like I feel like there's like just almost no shot that Georgia doesn't end up being a top 2 seed. Like,
I don't think it's possible.
yeah, I really just don't see a scenario where they're not. But then at the same time with Ohio State, it's like I could see them being 12-0 and having like, whatever, like 2 of the best wins in the country. And then I could also see this Ohio State team and like dropping like a couple games and maybe they don't even, win the Big Ten. So that's kind of an interesting like little storyline to go along with it as well. But that's going to do it for our college football playoff predictions. Again, we won't really kind of go in and predict what we think is going to happen in the tournament because obviously we still have a whole season of football to play. And this kind of basically tells you what we think right now. Right now, anyways. I think Ohio State's the best team in the country. I think Georgia's the best team in the country. I think they're the 2 best teams in the country. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So with that, we're going to wrap that part of it up. And then we're going to get into Rock Hard Takes here to end the show. We'll get a couple of comments in here, though, before we get going. Eric says, since Jordan Schaefbauer, your future Olympic correspondent, which is well noted, people keep an eye out for that. We're going to have Jordy on here eventually to talk Olympics. Isn't here to discuss his co-partners this. I'll spark the fire. When the Big North is inevitably created at the FBS level, do they get an auto bid winner into the playoff? You know what? I hope they do. Hopefully it's just a UND, NDSU, championship game every year, and that winner ends up going to the playoffs and wins some national champions for the best state in the country, North Dakota, the great land of the free. Then Kobe throws out here, would like to know fans' predictions on my golf league score this week. For reference, shot a 67 last week, 18 handicap, and using an awful golf set that don't fit me. I'm 6'5" for any chicks in here. So can confirm Kobe is 6'5". And also for those wondering, the 67 is on 9 holes, not 18. It's just to clarify here. Says he's an 18 handicap. I don't know if that's quite completely accurate. Actually, not 9 holes, you probably are. But let us know your thoughts on Kobe's golf league game for Wednesday. Yes, Cass, thanks for also clarifying that. This is all 9 holes, guys. Very, very important note there.
Important note. We did actually look up our demographic breakdown. We are 100% male, so no, there are no chicks in here.
Well, that's kind of the way to be. It's a good life to live. But yeah, make sure you drop predictions for Kobe's score this week. Kobe, can we maybe get some beer score guessing as well?
I'm just gonna lock in 65.
65
improvement.
I'm gonna go with let's go with a 63. Let's shoot for the stars this week, Kobe. Let's lower a little bit. I'm gonna go 63 on the course, and then Kobe, you gotta let me know if you're working Thursday, because then that'll affect my how many beers you have on the course prediction as well, because that'll be an important stat as well that we'll need each week. And then if Kobe is willing, we'll hopefully have him on Thursday to discuss the round and talk about the kind of numbers that he put up. Cass says, what about the girl who was into Howie? I don't know. Maybe she's listening again. Howie's got a fan out there. So that's an important note as well. There's a girl here and there, Weez. Unfortunately.
I was just checking.
Wish it was just me and the boys, but
I was just checking YouTube. I don't know about Twitter or anything.
Yeah. But yeah, the boys can get it done. Anyways, let's get into today's edition of Rock Hard Takes. For this week's episode in Rock Hard Takes, we're going to be doing the best like sports days or like events, I guess, of the year. I guess I didn't really even clarify with you before the show. Do we want to like stick with? Does it have to be like a singular day, or can we do like a weekend or like a tournament?
I'm taking a day.
Just a day. A day. Okay, so that can change these a little bit. But without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, Kobe actually said beers last week was 12 and 4 mixies.
Jesus.
But I do work this week, so may want to take the under. That being said, I'm just gonna go with I'll go 6 beers for Kobe. No mixed drinks. I think he drinks a 6-pack on the course. So 6-pack and a 63 for me.
I'll say you bring 12 just in case. And as soon as you crack 7, it gets a little hazy and we end up with 10.
All right.
And work might be, a little bit of an issue the next day, but you'll rally.
That's a good point. You might know my brother even better than I do. But
I feel like the key saying, I don't know if anybody else says this, like once you grab the 7th one, that's when if you stop at 6, that's it. Once you get the 7th, you're not stopping until you're done with the night.
That is a very good point. So I think both of our guesses are probably good. Like if I go 6, Weezy, that's counting clubhouse beers as well. All right, sounds good. Anyways, back to it here. Let's get into Rock Hard Takes. Start dropping your picks again. Best sports days of the year. We're gonna outlaw weekends. It's just gonna be a singular day. Who had number 1 pick last time?
I believe I did.
No,
No.
it was you.
Yeah.
Or,
No,
yeah,
yeah,
oh,
it
you
was-
just said that.
I just
Okay.
said I believe it was
I thought
me,
you just
yeah.
said I believe you did.
Yes.
Yeah, because you took free beer as the 101 last week, or not last week, Thursday. All right. So with that being said, I think there's a pretty obvious 101, at least for me, anyways, and I think a lot of sports fans, especially football fans, Super Bowl Sunday will almost eternally be my 101. It's a fantastic day. I just love watching Super Bowl. It's like a holiday. So yeah.
I might get ridiculed. I had that as my 9.
You're 9, really.
I think it's probably the most overrated day.
I think some people hate on it a little bit because it's like Sunday night, whatever. Yeah, if it was on Saturday night, then it'd be a little better. But I still just love the Super Bowl.
I get it. I think it's more fun as like a kid, maybe, but I think it's most overrated day, maybe in sports. It's still up there though at Super Bowl Sunday. So I get 2 here.
Yeah.
Okay. So my first day, I'm going to the first day of March Madness.
Okay.
That first Thursday.
That was my 102.
And then my next one, I will do opening Sunday of NFL.
Okay. Good pick as well. Again, so yeah, that's one kind of tough thing about Super Bowl Sunday is that it's like one single event, whereas like obviously you went 2 things where you just get a lot of games basically.
Like 11 a.m. to 7 o'clock.
So those are good picks. And speaking of picks like that, I'm gonna go with a similar way here. I'm gonna go with the first full Saturday of college football, so not week 0, week 1 of college football. I'm gonna go with that for my next pick. And then the second one that I'm going to go with here was actually, what the hell was I going to go with there? Okay, I just kind of blanked for a second. Oh, MLB opening day. I'm going to go MLB opening day there with
that.
this.
I had that one low too. I just don't know if that one's maybe as hyped up. Okay, so I got 2 now, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one, I'm going to lock in Thanksgiving Day NFL.
Yep, another high one I had there.
That was a fun one. And then I think I might have sweeped you here. You let me get this. I'm going to go New Year's Day, college football.
Yeah, once again, I was going to go with that later, but I mean, I don't know. I just win some, you lose some. I think though, according to the polls, I've done slightly better so far in the polls, but
your brothers are really disliking your pick here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, getting some hate here for the first time, casted way off there. Again, I think both of these are in me taking Super Bowl Sunday 101, but I love Super Bowl. And then Cass said, if one of you picks opening day for baseball, I'll boycott the show for a week. Speaking of overrated, I don't know. You know what? I think the MLB opening day is still a good day of sports. So
you gave me my top 4.
Well, you can have them. All right, last 2 picks for me here before we get out of here. I'm going to go with Christmas Day because we now get football games consistently on Christmas Day. We've gotten a couple of really good NFL matchups, and then also probably the best day of the entire NBA season until the playoffs start is Christmas Day. That's when they put their best games of the year. So I'll go Christmas Day, just overall, kind of counting both. And then last pick of this, I'm going to throw some golf in there. I'm going to go Master Sunday.
Okay, I had Master Sunday. People might hate on that, but I think that's just like a nostalgic day. Like nothing better than just sitting on the couch watching the Masters all Sunday. So I get one more. You gave me my top 5, so clean sleep on my end. I'm taking championship Saturday, so games on all day.
Yep, conference championship weekend also in my list. Yeah, I mean every single pick that was made was in my top 10. I had I don't know. I took them in the wrong order, baby.
I mean, you dominated me in the last TikTok poll and Instagram poll. I think it's going to be sheer domination this week.
Yeah, I think you probably got me. And Eric, you probably are right. I probably took in March Madness the 101. Probably a good pick, but
at the 102.
But yeah. Anyways, I still like Super Bowl Sunday. I'll defend it till I die. It's one of my favorite days of the year because I've just always been football guy through and through. So I'm gonna stand by it. I'll get some hate, but I'll stand by it. So stick to my guns. But that's gonna do it for today. Unless you guys have anything else you want to drop in the comments here before we go. But with that, we're going to start probably wrapping it up here. Thanks all for tuning in. This Thursday, we're going to hit double digits for Rock Hard Ball. It'll be a 10th episode coming up on Thursday. So kind of exciting, starting to get a little bit of traction here with the show, getting some, significant episodes out there and whatnot. Looking ahead to next week a little bit, where we'll probably remind you on Thursday. I think we're going to do a show on Monday. Are you still going to be around Monday?
I'll be around Monday.
Okay, yeah. So I think we're going to do a show Monday. But then obviously Thursday's 4th of July. Both of us will be out of town. We won't be in the studio. So we're gonna probably just pass on doing the show there on July 4th. Just have a good, safe holiday, whatever. And again, we'll remind you guys of that in the next 2 episodes as well. But just kind of want to throw that out there early. So with that being said, that's going to wrap it up here for episode 9. We will see you guys all on Thursday.